At 2:10 a.m. on July 5th, 1943, on the grassy steppes of southern Russia, the German war machine is coiled like a viper, ready to strike. This is Operation Citadel. The objective is a massive bulge in the front line known as the Kursk salient. Inside this bulge are nearly 2 million Soviet soldiers. Outside it, General Erich von Manstein has assembled the greatest concentration of armor in human history. He has the elite SS Panzer divisions, the Totenkopf, the Das Reich, and the Leibstandarte. But more importantly, he has the Wunderwaffe, the wonder weapons. The Germans are no longer relying on the Panzer III or IV. Tonight, they are betting the fate of the Third Reich on the new monsters of the battlefield. The Tiger I, the Panther, and the terrifying Ferdinand tank destroyer. The German crews are confident. They have been told that their new Panther tanks, with their sloping armor and high-velocity 75mm guns, are invulnerable to Soviet fire. They believe that the Tiger's 88mm cannon can pick off Russian tanks from 2 kilometers away, long before the Soviets can even aim. On paper, it is a mismatch. It is precision engineering versus peasant mass production. It is a diamond cutting through glass. But at 2:20 a.m., something impossible happens. The German artillery is scheduled to open fire at 3. Yet, 40 minutes early, the earth beneath their feet begins to shake. The horizon to the east erupts in a strobe light of muzzle flashes. Thousands of Soviet heavy guns open up simultaneously. This isn't a random harassment bombardment. It is a calculated counter-preparation strike hitting the precise assembly areas where the German tanks are idling. How did the Soviets know? Because while the Germans were building better tanks, the Soviets were building better spies. The Lucy spy ring in Switzerland and a captured German sapper had delivered the exact time of the attack to Marshal Georgy Zhukov. The element of surprise, the cornerstone of the Blitzkrieg, has just been vaporized before a single German engine turns over. The hunter has become the hunted. At 5:30 a.m., the German attack finally lurches forward, but the timeline is already broken. The chaos is absolute. However, the German technology is formidable. Leading the wedge are the Tiger Is. These 57-ton beasts are moving fortresses. A Soviet T-34 shell fired from a standard range simply bounces off the Tiger's 100mm thick frontal armor like a pebble hitting a church bell. The German commanders watch through their binoculars as the Tigers shrug off direct hits and return fire, their 88mm shells tearing the turrets off Soviet tanks with surgical violence. But as the Panzers push 10 miles into the Soviet lines, they encounter the true genius of the Soviet defense. Marshal Zhukov hasn't just dug trenches. He has terraformed the battlefield into a machine designed to eat tanks. This is the pack front. Instead of spreading their anti-tank guns out in a thin line, the Soviets have clustered them in groups of 10, all under the command of a single officer. They are camouflaged so well that a German tanker can't see them until he is 300 meters away. When a Tiger enters the kill zone, the Soviet commander gives a single order. 10 guns fire at once at a single tank. The Tiger is tough, but it cannot survive 10 armor-piercing shells hitting its tracks, optics, and barrels simultaneously. It is death by 1,000 cuts. And then there are the mines. The Soviets have laid over 400,000 mines in this sector alone. That is 2,400 mines per mile of front. They aren't just buried randomly. They are stacked. They are placed in channels to funnel the German tanks into the sights of the pack fronts. At 8:45 a.m., a new player enters the game, and it is a disaster for the Germans. The Ferdinand tank destroyer. This is a 65-ton behemoth with 200mm of frontal armor. It has no turret, just a massive gun jutting out of a steel box. It was designed to kill anything on the horizon. But the Porsche engineers who built it made a fatal, arrogant mistake. They forgot that a tank needs to defend itself against infantry. The Ferdinand has no machine gun. As the Ferdinands rumble forward, getting separated from their infantry support by the intense Soviet artillery, brave squads of Soviet soldiers realize the monster is blind. They don't run away, they run towards it. They swarm the sides of the massive vehicle where the main gun can't turn. It is a scene of medieval brutality meeting futuristic tech. Soviet soldiers are climbing onto the engine decks of $300,000 war machines, smashing Molotov cocktails into the air vents. The Ferdinand, immune to heavy artillery, is burning from the inside because its designers thought it was too powerful to need a simple machine gun. Meanwhile, the debut of the Panther tank is turning into a mechanical tragedy. The Panther is arguably the best tank design of the war, but it was rushed to the front straight from the factory floor without proper testing. As they try to maneuver through the muddy ravines of the steppe, they aren't being destroyed by enemy fire. They are killing themselves. Their fuel pumps leak. Their transmissions shatter under the torque. Engines burst into flames spontaneously. Before even seeing a Russian tank, a significant number of Panthers are abandoned by their crews, smoking monuments to the danger of rushing technology into battle. By July 12th, the German offensive has stalled. They have punched a hole, but they haven't broken through. The pincer movement is failing. Desperate to regain momentum, General Hoth pushes the I-2SS Panzer Corps toward the small railway station of Prokhorovka. He believes that if he can break through here, he can reach open ground and let his panzers run free. Waiting for him is General Pavel Rotmistrov and the Soviet 5th Guards Tank Army. This sets the stage for the climax of the battle, a collision of steel that defies comprehension. At 8:30 a.m. on July 12th, the sun is obscured by the dust of 1,000 treads. The two massive armored formations smash into each other. This is not a long-range duel. This is a bar fight. The Soviets know that their T-34, 76 tanks cannot penetrate the frontal armor of a Tiger or Panther at anything over 500 meters. If they sit back and shoot, they die. Rotmistrov gives the order, steel to steel. The Soviet tanks charge at full speed, closing the distance while firing on the move. It is suicidal, but it is the only math that works. They are trying to get inside the guard of the longer-ranged German guns. The scene at Prokhorovka becomes a swirling vortex of chaos. The dust is so thick that the sun is blotted out. At ranges of less than 30 meters, armor thickness stops mattering. A T-34 rams a Tiger at full speed, the collision knocking the German crew unconscious. The Soviet crew jumps out, submachine guns blazing. A Tiger fires its 88mm gun at a T-34 just 20 yards away. The shell passes clean through the Russian tank and hits another one behind it. Turrets are blown hundreds of feet into the air. Burning oil creates a black fog that coats the lungs of every soldier. In the sky above, another battle is raging. The Luftwaffe has deployed its dedicated tank buster, the Ju-87 Stuka, armed with 37mm cannons. But the Soviets have an answer, the IL-2 Sturmovik. This is the flying tank. Armored with a bathtub of steel protecting the pilot and engine, the IL-2 ignores German machine gun fire. It carries a terrifying weapon,
even amidst the wreckage
the
of battle.
P-Tab.
Life
These are small
finds a way.
anti-tank bomblets,
This
dropped in
sunflower,
clusters
a
of
stark
hundreds.
contrast to the
A single IL-2 flies over a German column and releases a cloud of these bomblets. They rain down on the thin top armor of the Tigers and Panthers. The German crews, safe behind 100mm of frontal steel, look up in horror as the roof of their tank is turned into Swiss cheese. Back on the ground, the sheer numbers of the Soviet Union begin to tell. For every T-34 the Germans destroy, 2 more seem to emerge from the smoke. The German crews are exhausted. They have been fighting for a week without sleep. They are physically superior tacticians. Their gunnery is better. Their tanks are stronger, but they are drowning in a sea of enemies. A German Tiger commander, his face blackened by soot, looks through his periscope. He has destroyed 22 Russian tanks today. He has no ammunition left. And he sees 5 more T-34 seconds rushing toward his flank. He realizes then that the war is lost. Not because he was outfought, but because he was outnumbered. By the evening of July 12th, the field at Prokhorovka is a graveyard of metal. Hundreds of tanks from both sides are burning, smoldering wrecks. The exact numbers are still debated by historians, but the result is not. The German advance has been stopped dead. They have burned through their elite reserves. They have lost machines they cannot replace, and veteran crews that took years to train. At the same time, thousands of miles away, American and British troops are landing on the beaches of Sicily. Hitler, panicking at the thought of a two-front war collapsing on him, orders Operation Citadel to be cancelled. He pulls the IISS Panzer Corps out of Russia to send them to Italy. It is the death knell of the German Eastern Front. The Battle of Kursk was not just a victory for the Soviet Union, it was a shift in the tectonic plates of history. Before Kursk, the Germans could dictate where and when the battles were fought. They held the initiative. After Kursk, they would never launch a major strategic offensive in the east again. From this moment on, for the next 2 years, the Wehrmacht would only retreat. They would retreat through Ukraine, through Poland, and finally, into the ruins of Berlin. The Germans brought the finest engineering of the 1,940 to the fight. They brought the Tiger, a machine so advanced it is still legendary. But the Soviets brought something else. They brought a total integration of intelligence, artillery, and industrial savagery. They turned the steppe into a deep, layered trap that used the Germans' own weight against them. They proved that a perfect weapon like the Ferdinand is useless if it has a blind spot, and that a superior tank like the Tiger can be defeated by a $5 mine and the courage of men willing to ram it at full speed. The lesson of Kursk is brutal and simple. In a war of attrition, quality is a luxury, but quantity is a quality all its own. The Nazi regime bet its future on a single roll of the dice, hoping that technology could overcome geography and demographics. They lost, and in the burning wheat fields of Russia, the backbone of the German army was broken forever. So, what do you think? Was the German defeat inevitable due to the sheer number of Soviet forces? Or could better decisions by Hitler and his generals have changed the outcome at Kursk? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the clash of steel titans, smash that like button and subscribe for more stories from the front lines where history was forged in fire.